What's up, everyone? This is Alan, and today I wanted to present to you 4 different investment options that pay dividends on a monthly basis and that I believe will not only continue to be able to pay dividends monthly, but even increase their payout going into 2021 and even with COVID still going on around the world. For myself personally, someday I dream of being able to live off of my investments, with dividends being a large part of that income. And since you clicked on this video, I'm going to assume that you probably have a similar goal of being able to live off of your investment portfolio, and that you're probably looking for some stable, reliable sources of monthly dividend income for your portfolio. Like I said, I have this goal, and I wanted to provide my analysis to all of you who are looking to achieve this exact same goal. My goal for this video is to save you some time and to point you in the right direction regardless if you choose to invest in any of these stocks. If this video provides any sort of value to you whatsoever, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the like button and also subscribe to this channel and leave a comment if you want. It would just let me know if you would like me to produce more of this content in the future. And also, for the sake of transparency, I will disclose any kind of information that could potentially be a conflict of interest, like if I currently own an investment that I'm talking about. With that being said, let's get to my first pick, which might not be a surprise to you if you've ever done your research on monthly dividend paying stocks before, but my first choice is Realty Income, ticker symbol O. Realty Income is one of the most highly respected real estate investment trusts out there because of their dependable and consistent monthly dividend payments. For those of you who might not be familiar, a real estate investment trust, or REIT as they're more commonly known, are a type of real estate company that owns and operates a portfolio of income-producing real estate. Realty Income is one of the larger REITs out there, and they have a large portfolio of buildings in almost every state across several different industries, including convenience stores, large retail stores like Walmart, and home improvement stores like Home Depot. I've been comparing Realty Income's 10Qs, and from what I've been able to gather, it seems like that they've been shifting away from more vulnerable types of properties that are more susceptible to shutdowns, so businesses like movie theaters and restaurants, for example, which is a good thing from a COVID perspective. This company has continued to produce their dividends for decades, even surviving the 2008 crisis, and in fact, they've increased their dividend 4 times this year. How crazy is that? I've heard it said before that the safest dividend out there is one that's just been raised, which makes sense because companies typically don't slash their dividends immediately after increasing them. So I would rank this company as being very reliable with their dividends, and right now it's yielding 4.65%, which is a really good amount. As you can see by their performance in the past year, Realty Income has been a little slow to recover pre-COVID. And I think that makes sense because right now, even though a vaccine is being distributed, many businesses are still struggling. However, as I previously mentioned, Realty Income's dividends are still pretty safe because they have 2 good things going for them. The first thing is that they have a really high percentage of their tenants paying rent every month. I think it's at least 90%, if not greater, despite many businesses across the country being locked down. And the second reason is that many businesses using their buildings are locked into long-term lease agreements. We're talking years and even decades in some instances. And if you have those dividends automatically reinvested every month, that means that you're picking up additional shares of Realty Income at a pretty nice discount. So my recommendation would be for those interested in monthly income to load up on some shares of Realty Income, but make sure that your portfolio is completely diversified. Don't just dump a large percentage into Realty Income. Make sure it's spread out. And just for the sake of transparency, I have been a shareholder of Realty Income in the past, but I currently do not own any shares as of the making of this video. Alright, this next stock has been a pretty good performer even during the whole COVID pandemic, and that would be Stag Industrial, ticker symbol STAG. Looking back at this stock's performance, they're only down 1.65% at this same time a year ago, which is extremely good when compared to most other REITs out there. And probably the biggest reason for that is because of Stag's differentiated strategy of investing in properties. Stag acquires and operates industrial and logistics properties throughout the country with an emphasis on distribution centers. And if you think about it, distribution centers would be much less impacted by COVID than, say, restaurants or movie theaters. And in fact, one of their largest tenants is actually Amazon, which has been performing extremely well since, as I'm sure we're all aware, because of COVID, everybody's doing a ton more online shopping as opposed to shopping in person. So it's pretty likely that Amazon is going to be able to continue to be able to pay Stag on the rent that they owe on their distribution centers. This company has been consistently increasing their monthly dividend since 2013 and currently yields 4.84%, which is also pretty close to Realty Income's dividend yield. But remember, we're going for dependability in regards to monthly income. We need to be more concerned about dividend safety than yield during this whole COVID pandemic. You don't want to have to experience the dividend sucker punch, which is when a company lowers or completely cuts a dividend because they can't afford to pay it to shareholders. As I just mentioned, this stock has done considerably well during the pandemic, almost returning to its pre-COVID price. And in fact, if you look back in August, you'll actually see that it had a share price that was even better than before the lockdown started happening. It started to go back down within the last few weeks, and that's probably because of the whole resurgence of the virus and businesses starting to shut down again. But in the end, I would consider Stag Industrial's monthly dividend to be pretty safe and pretty reliable, even though they haven't raised their dividend during the pandemic. I would still definitely consider this to be a valuable part of any portfolio if you're interested in monthly dependable income. Moving on, my next pick is a little different because it's not a stock, it's actually an ETF. And that would be the Vanguard Short-Term Corporate Bond ETF, ticker symbol VCSH. This is an ETF that holds corporate bonds that mature in 1 to 5 years. In fact, according to Vanguard's website, the average duration of a corporate bond in this ETF is 2.8 years, which is pretty short. And in fact, roughly 55% of the bonds are A-rated or higher, with the majority, about 45.5%, being A-rated. So overall, this is a very safe ETF that pays dividends on a monthly basis. Now, as you can see, it only yields 2.36%, which isn't a whole lot if you compare it to Stag or Realty. But think about it. It's a very safe holding to have with a very low expense ratio of just 0.05%. As I'm making this video, high-yielding savings accounts, like at Ally Bank, are only yielding 0.5%. So 2.36% is a whole lot better right now. Let's say you have some money in the bank and you think you might need it in a year or less. I would definitely want to put some of that money into this ETF and earn a lot more than just the 0.5%. Granted, an ETF isn't as safe, but given what this ETF holds, I would still say that it's still a very, very safe holding. This is probably, in fact, the safest holding in this video. And as you can see, on top of earning a good dividend every month, your initial investment will also grow too. Since the COVID-19 pandemic started, this ETF share price has fully recovered, and it's actually continued to grow. Because ETFs are diversified by nature, if one or a few of these highly rated corporate bonds were to fail, there's just so many in this ETF that it would not affect the share price too negatively at all for too long of a period. So VCSH is a good holding to put some of your money into if you're more of a short-term investor, meaning you intend to use your invested money within a year or so. Or this would also make a really good holding to have in your retirement account, like your IRA, as well as for monthly income. For the sake of transparency, I currently hold Vanguard funds, but not this one, and I'm also a former employee of Vanguard. I used to work there for a number of years. And finally, my last pick is Main Street Capital, ticker symbol MAIN. Probably one of the first things that you noticed when I turned to this slide was that dividend yield at 7.58%, which is a lot, right? But there are some things that you need to keep in mind. Main Street Capital is what's known as a BDC, or a business development company. These companies provide funding to smaller and medium-sized businesses. Some BDCs actually provide funds to distressed companies, which make them even more risky. Basically, how it works is, let's say there's a smaller sized company, and they need money in order to expand their operations. They might need more money than what their local bank is willing to loan them, but they're not big enough to approach Wall Street and ask for funding. That's where BDCs like Mainstream Capital step in and provide these smaller companies funds. Main Street Capital will give them the money, the businesses repay them, and Main Street shares the profit with shareholders. If you guys are interested in learning more about BDCs, I'd be more than happy to provide a video about them. Just leave me a comment below, as I feel like BDCs are becoming a lot more popular in recent years given their extremely high dividend yields. However, I would consider this holding to be more risky, in fact probably the riskiest one that I'm talking here. So if you do want to invest in them, I would highly recommend not allocating a large amount of your portfolio to them. Make sure you diversify just in case there is a worst case scenario. One thing that really attests to Main Street Capital's performance, though, is just how they've continued to grow their dividends even during the 2008 financial crisis, which is a major sign of strength for Main Street Capital. And as you can see, Main Street has really struggled to recover since COVID began, and I think things are probably going to continue to be a little more challenging for them since businesses are closing again. But 2021 could potentially be a really good year in terms of recovery. I would expect Main Street's share price to increase if they can hold on through this pandemic. Let's just hope that everything works out with this vaccine that's being distributed and that businesses receiving funds from Main Street will be able to survive. And that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you all so much for sticking around. I really, truly appreciate it. Like I said, if this video benefited you in any sort of way, maybe it got you brainstorming ideas or pointed you in the right direction, or maybe it was just entertaining, please smash that like button below and feel free to subscribe and leave a comment. This is my first YouTube video, and I really just wanted to try to provide value to all of you by sharing my research on what I've been looking up, so I apologize that this video isn't as polished as maybe some other creators out there. If you all want me to continue to produce this free content to you all, just let me know and I'll do my best to research and present my findings to you all on similar investing ideas. If you have any good dividend investment suggestions, feel free to share them in the comments section below as well. Thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you next time.